Happy Veterans Business Week, everyone. I'm excited to be here. I would love to know if you're coming back after session one, which we did the Get Your Local Business on Google Search and Maps. Right now, we're going to be talking about cybersecurity in your small business, which is a very important topic because we do have a lot of information that we need and we utilize to help run our business. So I'm going to bring the slides up and forward. If you do want the slides while I'm going through this right now, you can utilize this URL and code to get the slides and handout. Do know though, you'll have everything in the actual toolkit link that you'll get afterwards, just like Julie was telling you. This is just if you want to follow along and take notes or annotate notes here, that's really up to you. We're going to go ahead and dive in and talk about cybersecurity in your small business. If you want to connect with me, the best place to connect with me is Alignable. You'll see how to do that there, or join the Skills After Service group, and that is the best place if you've got questions that sometimes pop up, especially if we get new information. Sometimes it takes a little bit to marinate before we ask that question. But you can also find me on Twitter, the first handle there, or on Instagram at getfound.growth. I would love to give you some love and visibility. If you want to tweet or post me, I'm happy to retweet or share you in my stories. Okay, so we're going to be talking about cybersecurity and your small business, and this is very important. I've actually been remote since 2004. It was before it was all sexy and cool to do that, right? And so dealing with all of the different online issues, all the concerns and challenges has been something that is always, seems like there's always an iteration of things that happen that we see. And then there's some that are old standards and standby. So I'm going to bring those up in just a moment, but I want you to make sure that you really look carefully at all of these, because there's a lot still that are very active as far as attacks, threats, or even emails. And we're talking not just about your computer, your laptop. You now have tablets, you have your phone as well. So all of these areas are where we need to make sure that we are secure, as well as anything that we're doing in the cloud. So the following examples that I'm going to show you here are really examples of what some spam messages will look like. And some are pretty, they look pretty official. So in this instance, of course, we have seen this for quite several years, right? Is that, my gosh, we're going to be gifted $1 million. Can you believe it? Somebody's going to give us $1 million, 1.5 million. So we may see this and think this is something we need to accept, but it is a spam message. All right. So we've seen this quite a bit. You may also see this one. Somebody's trusting you with $10.5 million. Oh my gosh. So this could be something that we see, but they are actually looking for that information and wanting you to give your specific contact information and identity information. These are the ones that we're seeing even more so of. And they're a bit more nefarious because they look like they could come from an official business or potentially official organization. But remember, this is not a legitimate brand. Look at all that information. They really aren't. So it can be even where people are saying that they're going to hold your information for ransom, or perhaps broadcast your information because you've done something naughty online and they know all the stuff that you have on your actual computer. So your machine is at risk. Understand you do want to protect your machine, but this is another scam and spam that you see happen quite a bit. And of course, they want to give you good advice here. So they act like they are your friend and they're there to help you, but that's not even true either. So it's great advice, but you don't want to share passwords with anybody here. And today we're going to be talking about how cybersecurity still does matter, because we know that everybody's flooding online as we do more business online, as people use more mobile phones whenever they're doing interactions. So how you can protect your business, what to do if you're attacked, and as always, I'll end with free recap and resources. And if we run out of time for any reason, or as I said, if that question comes later that you have, feel free to connect with me on Alignable, especially in the Skills After Service group, because that's a great place where you can ask a question and all of us there can learn together, okay? So cybersecurity does matter for every business. It doesn't matter the size of your business. We're all using devices, and I'm sure you have multiple devices. In fact, if you wanted to, just throw that in the chat. Talk about the devices you have. How many do you have? 4, 5, 6 in the course of a day? On average, I will use my mobile phone. I'll use my tablet. I'll use my laptop. I'll use my smart TV. I'll throw back to a mobile phone, 2 mobile phones that I have. So you can see you get quite a bit of different devices, which are surfaces and opportunities that could get into a danger if you don't protect them. In fact, we know that businesses are worried about this. They are concerned not just about their own information to run their business that could totally disable them as a business, but also for their customers' information. And as we as customers are also very, very cognizant of that, because I see a lot of people, even when you're on an e-commerce site, when people see things are just a little bit wonky, like a sentence is a little bit longer, or maybe the photos aren't aligned, that's actually something that hits the trust factor of e-commerce sites, and people will not buy because they feel like perhaps somebody is actually going to fish and get their information. Okay, so as we look here, we also know that having a cybersecurity plan is important. It needs to be in place for you, and you need to feel comfortable with the tools that you're utilizing, because there are so many tools out there that we can use. So how do we protect ourselves, right? That's really why we're all here. So where could you be vulnerable to attacks? Well, just think about it. When was the last time you updated your website? I'm going to let you think about that for a minute, because that's one of the biggest culprits. How about your software? When was the last time you updated your software? Or when was the different technical vulnerabilities? Are there things where you have it on autopilot or auto accept, where you're letting things just immediately accept all? Actually spend time. I spend a lot of time, especially with all of the different places that, because I've been in and actually operate in international e-commerce, and I have for 15 years. So because of that, every country has different rules and different challenges. So if you think about that, technical vulnerabilities, where could be some places where information might be leaked or shared or potentially harm you or your customer? Because when you think about even e-commerce, my goodness, all of the different financial information, private information, specific identity, that's the word I'm looking for. I wanted to say private at the same time again, but identity information, that's important. And that needs to be something that we protect and guard. So protecting those passwords is really important. How to do that is make those passwords difficult to guess. I know this may seem like, okay, Maria, that's a no-brainer. I really wanted something more, but I will tell you, it's these simple things where we trip up, right? And we might need to really think, especially if you've been online for quite some time, what's that area that maybe you have a password that may not be as secure because you created that password back in 2016, back in 2020, when everything was going crazy and you were throwing everything up online, because you really need to keep everything secure. So go back through and make sure your passwords are secure. Make them difficult to guess. Don't do obvious things like your mom's maiden name, your birthday, and don't give that information out. I just have to share that with you, because I see a lot of people on socials doing things that are actually sharing their confidential private information, like going through the quizzes where, what's your first dog's name? What's the name of your child? What's your mother's maiden name? What's your, what day, where were you born at? What city were you born at? Those are all confidential, private information that you're divulging. And even though it may be a really cool quiz that everybody's doing and you're getting to know everybody within your socials, it still is something that is now available to others, and you have to be wary of that and really protect yourselves. So you want to keep those passwords private and not share them. In fact, a lot of times when people are working with agencies and consultants with any of the Google tools, they will share their Google password just because they feel like it's easier for them to access information. And do not do that, because this is something where all of your reviews, all of your email, anything that you're keeping within Google Drive, everything and every tool associated with your Google account, you want to keep that very, very secure, which means you do need to keep that password very protected and just invite people by their email, giving them different roles, kind of like you do in socials. And you do have to have a different password for each account. Don't get known for that, because there is inevitably somebody will figure that out. And once they figure it out in one, they're going to test for vulnerabilities on everything. Remember what I showed earlier with where you could have those places where people can actually try to see where the weak link is? They're going to keep trying it, especially if they know exactly what your different passwords are for each account. Now, I'm going to make fun, really, and this is really in the learning expense for a friend of mine. So she's with a financial organization. I mean, a really a financial institution, and her password, and well, I love her, but she's changed it since then, just so you know. So you don't even have to worry about that. I'm not outing her at all, but her password was Jesus for everything. Okay? For everything. It was also her security question answer for everything, from logging into the actual bank, into everything that she was doing in the bank. It was really a huge risk. But this is important for you to keep in mind. And also, as you're looking at even your customers' information, we'll talk about that in a minute, just how you share and what you share of your customers' information. So let's go back to passwords. In passwords, what's nice is you see Google Password Manager. If you haven't noticed that in the last month, no, really take a look at that as a place where you can keep that nice and safe. I like to use Google Password Manager as well as Google Authenticator to help make sure that everything is safe and secure. With two-step verification, I know we are all getting exhausted by this as well, because you're getting pinged by everything that you connect to that you need to have two-step verification. But this is really for your safety, because it's a lot easier, even though it's cumbersome to have to go to, okay, now I got to go look at my phone, or I need to look at my Google Authenticator to do this. It's harder to be able to resurrect and to reclaim, to get back that actual account and that information once it's out. So even though this might be a slight inconvenience, it's a great way for you to stay secure. And I do encourage you to look at that. I know a lot of people ignore it because they just think later. Unfortunately, you don't want later to be when you're presented with the opportunity to have your information taken or something nefarious done to you. Okay, so that second verification could be a mobile phone, it could be an actual security key, or as I was talking about, even the authenticator. So Google Workspace, just so you know, which you have available to you either through your free personal Gmail, free Google account, or the paid Workspace account, where you get a little bit more functionality, as well as you get a little bit more security and storage. You'll see that you can also turn on two-step verification, which is really important, because you do want to know, especially if you've got other people in your business accessing this Google Workspace account and storing everything in Google Drive, you want to know when people are coming from an area maybe that isn't where they normally are. If I'm always in Texas and then all of a sudden I show up in Bali, then it's really important that we are able to see that and keep everything secure. All right, so we look for that two-step verification. Now, in doing this, how you can keep your workspace secure is limiting who can see newly created files. Okay, this is very important. One of the things that I do like to do within Google Workspace, because I have a paid Google Workspace account. Understand you have 15 gigabytes of storage in your Google Drive, your free personal Gmail or Google account drive. But if you have a paid one, then you can have up to 1 terabyte or even more. You can purchase more space there. But what I like about Google Workspace, the paid version as opposed to the free, is that now everything that's stored, like a file that I'm sharing with everybody, I'm not sharing that within my own personal drive. I actually use shared drives, which keep it nice, secure, and only that they can see in that one shared drive. So you might want to take a look at that. Spend some time to see what works best for your business, especially if you're interacting with quite a few people who come to your actual drive and look at newly created files, or you give them the opportunity to share it with other people by setting a link that says, anyone with this link can access it. Also, it will warn you when people are outside your company. It always does this to say, you know what, this is not a KLI brand or teamkli.com email, so you're going outside the company now. You also want to look at your calendar too, because some people will share their calendar with other team members, so they could put things like when they're out of the office, or when there's a vacation, maybe they're an appointment and people are not looking for them. But you do have to make sure who you're actually sharing that with. You do have the ability now within Google Workspace and your Google Calendar, to create an appointment scheduler and really limit down which pieces, or even say which hours you're available in there, and then they're not able to see and access anything else. And then admins also need to have recovery information. So not everybody needs to be an admin of your account. Okay, I see a lot of people when I do go in and work with different businesses and I'm looking at their Google Workspace, a lot of people make everybody an admin, and you don't want to do that, because admins have a lot of ability to bring in different apps, make things available, make it available so other people in in your organization have the ability to also bring in different apps that maybe you don't want all connected within your Google Workspace. So, how safe are the password managers when Google gets attacked as well? What you need to look at truly is that Google is forever iterating and learning. That's the good thing. I know that we look at all some of the big companies and think, okay, they get attacked as well, but they are far more advanced on the cutting edge of what could be happening compared to everything else. So that's why I say make sure your password is not the same for everything. You are changing things up everywhere. And it may be very cumbersome because you're doing that and it's not easy anymore to keep it in your mind, but it truly is much more secure. Okay. So you can go to this URL right here at the very bottom where it says see more, and you can get more about actual security. So controlling who sees your files. So when you want to share a file, if you've ever looked at that in Google Workspace, you have the ability to make somebody either where they can view the file. So if you are looking at the files, like for example, I sent out the actual handout and the slides that I'm using right now, you can see that you are able to view it. You can't edit it and you can't comment it because we don't want that, but you can set that when you're sharing files. Maybe you want somebody just to view it. Let's say you're sharing something with a board of directors and you just want them to view it, but you might want to make it an editor if it's somebody, let's say, maybe it's your bookkeeper and they need to update the numbers on a spreadsheet. So you want to make them an editor, but for the board of directors, you just want them to be the viewer. Or it could be that you're asking somebody for assistance, either another team member or friend, and so you want to make them commenters, which they can put comments on the side. You also can add an expiration date. So if you know you're only going to be working during the specific time period with somebody and that's all the time that they'll need access to it, you can set up the expiration date. Now, you can check to notify that they have the ability to share. If you've not done that before, it actually comes across by email. If you don't do that, they don't get a notification. So if you unclick it, then they don't get a notification. I like to set up the notification and also give them a message too, as well as copy that link. A lot of times I'm connected with people on Slack, so I'll even copy that link and share it within Slack to make sure they know wherever they are spending time, they'll be able to see that ability to access the information. And then you can click send or share. So again, lots of good tips here. And even though we may know the good tips, the big thing now is setting aside time so you can start applying what you learned, because being able to put that into practice is what's key. It's not just knowing, right? So knowing and keeping our devices safe is really important. This means you don't leave computers unattended and opened with your actual login already there, so they have full access to everything just like they're you. Again, I know this can be cumbersome, but just think about how are you using a laptop? A lot of times, even if I'm doing presenting or I'm at an event, I might have several people on a laptop. So I actually have different secure areas of my laptop that I use. I'm also a big user of VPN because I don't want anybody picking up exactly the different information about me when I'm going across and seeing maybe I'm on a public Wi-Fi or I'm in a hotel Wi-Fi, which is still public, or it could be that I'm on Southwest Airline Wi-Fi, which is still public. So again, keep all of that in mind. You want to use a locked screen. You want to only enable different apps that people can see and lock those files or keep them separate that you don't want anybody else to see. And never just add a USB. So a USB, a thumb drive, a flash drive, any of those can carry a virus or some sort of attack and be able to get information. You don't just want to add that in. In fact, there are some devices now, I know even with my laptop now, I can't even add that USB unless I want to and have special connection, which makes me very purposeful and deciding to keep everything very safe. Require team members to have this as well. I told you, in international e-commerce, so I span across the globe and actually have 23 team members that I work with that are all international. And because of that, it's important, if Christina is in the UK and she's got everything on her phone and she forgets it when she's having a coffee at a cafe, now people could have access to this. If Julie is in Turkey and all of a sudden, her desktop is attacked and now all of a sudden our information from the business is accessible, or even the customer information, that is something that we're all going to have to deal with. So everybody, every portal, every device is an entrance into a possible attack. It's important to keep those locked. And remember to have the ability to have remote data wiping available just in case somebody does get access to it. Because, we all still lose devices and that can happen, or somebody gets handsy and they pick it up. I just saw that happen to somebody. They were at an event, they stopped at a cafe, put their phone down, turned to fix their coffee, and their phone was gone. It can happen that quickly. A few extra tips too: is your software up to date? I know we get pinged lots of times in a day and notified to update software. Some are critical updates, some might be just aesthetic updates or to make it a little bit function a little bit better, but you do need to pay attention to those updates. I do see a lot of people, especially as we're on different video calls, shut out these different notifications and never look at them again. And we really need to get in the practice that even if we do that and we're in the middle of a meeting, that we go back later and have some time we've set aside to see if whether or not we need software updated, whether or not we need to establish policies within our organization or our small business to let people know that they also need to have software updating time. Okay, so the security options are important, and I actually look at that. Now, how many of you ever download an app and really look at what an app does? Say what it can do and what it can enable, because I look at all of that. When I'm in a Google Play Store, or if you're in iOS, you're in the App Store, it will let you know exactly what it will have access to, whether or not it'll access your contact information. Can it turn on your microphone? Can it turn on your camera? This is also important because this is all access to you and your private information. So Google Workspace itself is secure by design. In fact, all those apps that are running in the cloud, those I love just because that protection is there, and there's so much security in Google Workspace. Plus there's a backup that's actually happening. So I do love having that available, and I love the convenience of not having to work with a USB at all. So I never have to plug one in, especially if I can have internet access, which I do either through Wi-Fi or through my mobile hotspot. I can go there and immediately access files within Google Drive, and I never have to plug in a USB at all or a flash drive into my actual device. So there's no risk whatsoever there when I do that, because I keep everything very protected. But even more important so, and I see a lot of people who pay attention to this more so than their own personal information, and that is keeping their customers secure. Because of course, we've been trusted with information. We don't want to break that trust. So one of the ways you can do that is making sure you have a secure website. So there's nothing there to get anyone in trouble. And that means you have to have the S, HTTPS. Now let me take you on a side note, because I was just presenting the Get Your Business found on Google Search and Maps, and understand you can do amazing things with search engine optimization to be seen by Google. But if you don't have an S, a secure site, then you are not going to show up high in Google search no matter what you do. You're penalized for not having a secure site. So it benefits you from visibility of your business, but it does benefit you also for the fact that you keep yourself, your information, your devices, your business secure, as well as your customers. So this is what HTTPS stands for. It is a transfer protocol that is secure, and we want that secure. So Google sites have that already included. Not every site has that, okay? Sometimes you'll see that when you're working with a registrar or a hosting company, where it does say that you can get a secure site, and it either is a part of their package or it's something more that you need to add on. But usually there's an extra step. Here within Google Sites, it's already included there, so you have all of that. Now, when you're protecting your email, this is also important. An email provider needs to be able to provide this to protect that information that's being sent across email, because there's a lot of information sent across email. I'm still amazed at a lot of the things that are sent across email. So we want to make sure that we're encrypted. We've got that transport layer security when information is being sent back and forth, transferred over, and that there's two-step verification to be able to get in. Again, I can't reiterate that enough, because I know how much that can save you, even though I know everybody that I have ever seen attacked will say, I wish I would have done that. I meant to, I was gonna do it, and it was just too cumbersome at the time. So as we're looking at emails, those email attachments, everybody, I know we're pretty wary about those. Keep those in mind, but also downloading any files because there's lots of websites. So say, hey, we've got this free thing for you, or we've got this great guide, download it now. And we're in a new website that we really don't know. We either got there by a link, somebody sent it to us, maybe we saw it within marketing, or we found it within search, but we don't know for sure the files that we're downloading. So unless you have something that's actually screening your files and reviewing them to make sure there is no nefarious or malware in there, nefarious things added or malware, then that's important too. Do not click on unsolicited emails. Yes, this is really, really important because, again, things will look very close. I was talking to my bank about 2 weeks ago because I got an email from my bank and it looked pretty official. I mean, very official, because normally I won't even call on those. I'll just delete and put them into spam. But this one I called on because it looked so official. I had to know if it was real. And it was interesting because they were able to help me right away and they said, no, that is not real. But boy, that does look real. And I said, that really, I mean, it's everything. It was their .com, it was their website address. I said, I could see where somebody could get tripped up on this. And it was nice because they were able to help me. I didn't contact them through the contact information on the email. I contacted them through the information I already had as a bank customer on how to contact them. So not even within that information there. So I'm not falling for somebody who says that they're this company. Also, look at email addresses and email signatures. This is really important because it might give you a clue or let you know that this may not be the right company. That's not the real brand, like we were just talking about a moment ago. Right here, if you take a look at this, that's not a legitimate authorized email from the brand. Okay, how do you know? Take a look at the email address that it came from at the very top as well. Okay. How you can spot spam is just taking a look. If it's a sender you don't know, there's no photo, and it doesn't just sound right. It doesn't read right. There's also something that's always urgent. So in this case with the bank, it was very urgent because if I didn't update my information, which was the clue for me, that by the way, that it was not really from the bank. It was that if you don't update your information now, you're going to lose access to this account. But the problem was everything else was very official. The header, the email address, and the way it was written and the signature. So I had to make a phone call in that standpoint. For this, you take a look at your screen. Can you tell which one is the fake as you look at this? Take a good look. Can you spot it? You know what, CJ, I don't know for sure. I'm not sure if GoDaddy does have that secure already embedded. So I'm not helpful, but maybe somebody else here will know if it's already embedded. I know sometimes you have to add that in, even though it's included, so it's not anything that's an additional cost. You still have to proactively add that in and associate it with, but I'm just not sure if that's GoDaddy. I know some of the other registers do require that by doing that. Thank you, Julie. Thank you so much. That's really helpful. See, ask and you will receive right here. So as you look at your, which one is the fake, take a look here. It's an unknown setter and there's no profile photo and the URL is not correct. So remember what I said, it's going to look really close to what it should be, but that's not it. So you do have to do some investigating to stay completely safe. Now, Gmail is really good at blocking spam. We know this from the business standpoint. You might have been exhausted because all of a sudden now you end up in the promotion tabs or you end up in the spam folder. But do know that Gmail does filter through a lot of spam and you want that. Sometimes I'll go into my public Gmail account, so the public facing Gmail account, and I'll see 700 things in spam in one day. Normally what I have to do more than anything is go in to rescue people out of spam, because sometimes it does get a little bit where they might be there, especially if they've shared an email, let's say with 20 other people, and they might have email addresses exposed. If they've done anything like that, they may have ended up in my spam. So Gmail does a good job blocking that and and stopping attempts at phishing, which is searching for your confidential private information, right? So the bottom line is really to think before you click. So as you're planning ahead, what you can do to be ready is first, who is going to be in charge of this? I mean, I'm telling you, I know this for a fact. I've been involved with a business that is wonderful. I mean, it's got engineers and everything. So you've got everybody is spanning the globe working all together, and they had no idea who was in charge of their Google Workspace account. They didn't know who the admin was, who could add things. And it didn't come up till recently when they were trying to utilize Google Bard. So Google Bard is Google's AI, and it works almost like a digital assistant now, even better than just regular AI, but it's got additional assistant, but you have to give it permission to access your Google Drive if you want to use it as an assistant to be able to search, like if you're talking about a topic and you want it to search everything from your Google Drive to calendar to email to everything else. Well, they couldn't do it because they didn't know who was the admin. And I thought, okay, this is not the time to figure out who the admin is when you want to add something, because luckily something negative hasn't happened where they needed to shut things down and to be able to secure things. So this is important to do and to be able to take that quick action that you see here. Having that plan helps you not have to discover or create things on the fly. So when you create a record of your tech assets, remember what I said about having all your different passwords. You need to know what platforms you're using, what tools and what software you're using. This is all important. Like Julie was saying a moment ago, GoDaddy sites might be secure, but I know a lot of WordPress sites that run into issues only because they're always updating their plugins. And I've seen people go 6 months, 8 months without updating their WordPress site, and there's a plugin that could be an issue that then starts giving them security issues. I just saw that this morning, in fact, with one of the e-commerce sites, and he's utilizing Shopify, which you would think is secure, but it's showing there that an app was added in the back, and now it's coming up that there's a phishing, an attack, that actually a phishing code that is showing up on their site. So in order for you to be a good steward of your customers' information as well as your business and taking good solid care of your business, what do you have there? What do you need to keep track of, and is it up to date? What accounts do you have? If you're not utilizing it, then do you still need to have it and use it? And what is it connected to? And what hardware are you using as well? Does that need to be updated? These are all good decisions to have. Understand, I like using Google Forms quite a bit for information even, and Google Forms are quite secure, but I'm always a little leery when I connect Google Forms to my actual site, to my website, because I want to be a good steward of your information. And I do know when you connect things, a lot of times it'll say, we'll have access to this, your contacts can make changes. So you need to really slow down and read what you're giving blanket permission to. So having those clear policies instead of just guessing or creating that on the fly is really important. And in the instance of the business that I was telling you about where they didn't know who the admin was of their Google Workspace account, that's exactly what they did. They started putting an actual training website utilizing a Google site on how exactly they can stay secure, because they've got this, people across the globe. So different times that they're all working. And then who's going to be that mailbox that's going to get that contact information or be the person that they go to. So you're not trying to figure that out, because that's really exasperating when you've got to figure out, okay, I can't text so-and-so, where's so-and-so. Just when you need somebody, that's when they're not available or something fails them as far as access or security or a device actually. So you don't want your security to be just haphazard like that. You want to create that secure culture where everyone knows that it's their job to keep everything secure, and that if they see something that they're concerned about, like for example, I was in a business in their Slack channel, and somebody was sharing the passwords for some of the different tools that they use, like their Envato, which is an image creator, their stock photos. So it was to make it easy for everybody, but understand this is something where now there's a password being shared on something that's not secure, and it potentially could be a password for other software or even their own actual programs or their own systems. So you want to ensure that everybody is really focusing on and practicing that good behavior. And it's hard sometimes because I know we get busy and it can be easy to just say, I'm going to do it the next time. But the attack will never let you have the next time. It's going to happen when it's going to happen. So when you are attacked, make sure you contact everybody, banks, credit card companies, and other financial institutions. This is really important. On our business credit card, there was a subscription that was started. I had to call the bank because that subscription was started the same day, 12 different times. And it was difficult because the bank employee right away said, well, it's a subscription. I thought, yes, it is, but did it start before today? It's not, you're acting like it's a charge that we already have to have. So we have to do our due diligence and be champions for our own business. Check your credit report. This is important because there's so much identity thievery out there. People want to take advantage of your good name, and you don't want the time that you find out is when you need something, funding, access, or even in growing your business. You want to dispute those fraudulent charges. This is important, and I know sometimes it can be cumbersome. I mean, here I am trying to do things, and you're running a business, and you're getting that information that, hey, somebody tried to access this, somebody used your card or used your information. And then also at the same time, somebody's saying that it was a fraudulent charge on their card too. So you're having to go through and prove that. I know there's a lot. Which VPN do you suggest? Low cost? Oh, there's a lot of good VPNs. I can tell you what I use, but I don't market for them. But there's a lot of good VPNs out there, and it really depends on what you need. I happen to like VPNs that I can utilize on all my devices and where I can throw myself to different locations. I see Julie coming on, so I bet she has some sort of advice. So Julie, go for it. Oh, perfect. See, Julie, she always is taking care of us, even. If you want to think of anybody who is thinking ahead, this is Julie. So we can all take that model there. So consider also a fraud alert, if you need to freeze something too. So definitely look at that article. Thank you, Julie. If you do need to file a local police report, this at least is now a documentation that something happened in case there is something even bigger that comes up where you lose access to something. You want to have a local police report filed. You can also now file it to the Internet Crime Complaints Center. So you can see that URL at the bottom left hand corner on how to be able to let people know there and file that report. That keeps it central, and that's a good place to look just in case you want to know what are some of the issues that people are running into right now. What are some of the biggest attacks or common issues that we're seeing in security? So you can contact the Federal Trade Commission as well. That URL down there should be reportfraudftc.gov. Sorry about that. I didn't see that moved over before I turned that into a photo, but that is reportfraud.ftc.gov. And you can report identity theft at idtheft.gov. This is important too. Understand that people will take your identity for everything, from not just your business information or your customers' information, but it could be maybe you have a nice clean medical record, or maybe in your medical you're getting access to prescriptions that they want access to as well. Or perhaps you have a really good medical plan and they don't. So they're going to go over and steal your identity and put as many charges as they can on your insurance and your plan because they get a benefit from that. It's things that we don't even think about because we're too busy and focused on what we're doing in our business to even spend time to think of all the different things that you can get to. So for you, really the next thing to do is to look at your passwords and see if you need to change them. All right. Honest talk here too. Take a look at your devices. Are you doing some things that I've seen people do routinely? I mean, this I see 9 out of 10 times is they have a document on their actual desktop which has all of their passwords and the link to everything there. So are you guilty of that too? Is that document protected? Do you have another place that that you can keep things, or you have an authentication, another way that it's going through? So this is important. Sometimes we do things that are easy for us, but also it makes it easy for somebody who's a scammer or who is a threat, actually doing cyber threats. If you need technical support, reach out to somebody who can help you, who can really walk you through that. There are a lot of businesses who really focus on this, and you do want to monitor what's happening on your financial and all of your credit. Do not just look, keep your head in the sand until something actually happens, okay? Now, I have covered quite a bit today. And Julie has been wonderful with resources already, right? But there are some more that you can go to. And that is, whoops, I went backwards. Let's look at what we can apply that we learned. First, it's using strong passwords. You might even want to use a password manager. You know what that is? That actually does also come up with its own passwords, which are a bunch of different letters and combinations that it would really be difficult for them to guess. Or I have seen people also making much longer passwords so that the conjugations and the combinations are different. Two-step verification whenever possible. All right. Let's look at the security of our devices. Do we have ways to keep that secure? Is our passcodes to different things different on different devices too? When we visit a website, does it have the S? And does our own website have that HTTPS? You can also look at your email provider too, because a lot of us have old email providers, and if they've not updated or upgraded, the big dogs normally do, but we should double check that just to make sure and not assume that. Make a plan for that list. This is really important. That list is the hardest thing that people have to come up with when they are so stressed now because there has been attack. So doing that list beforehand is something that we always hear, that ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, right? So as you look here, also developing that security culture and having that plan in place is very critical. Now, remember what I said about if you've got any questions that we don't answer here today that come up later, or maybe you come across something, you can always come to Alignable, to the Skills After Service group, and ask your questions there. I'm going to be there, as well as Julie, CJ. I mean, we're all there to help you. You can also find more safety tips at Google by going to Google Security Center or Safety Center, and that security checkup there will walk you through things. It's a nice checklist, so you don't have to worry about remembering everything. The only thing you have to remember is to go to safety.google and take action and follow that through. So that is what you might do today to apply what you learned. All right. And then, of course, if you need anything Google, you can go to google.com/grow for your business, for any additional teachings or learnings that you need, and any updates that are also happening within cybersecurity too. You can connect with me here. This is the place. You're going to go to bit.ly/find Maria to find any of my socials, but truly find me on Alignable. It's nice and easier, not another place you have to go. And please don't start a social just to connect with me. And as always, I model what I teach, which is, if this was helpful to you, I would love for you to go to reviewmaria.com. That is a secure site because it takes you straight to my Google business profile, which is Google. And you can get there also with a QR code. But I'm here for you if you have any questions, and I'm excited to be here for you. Again, this slide deck, to me, of all the slide decks I use, is one of the ones to hold on to and use as your check mark to make sure that you are staying as secure as you need to be. Because there's a lot of practices that I went through, but now applying this is where you can take your knowledge and make it powerful and really safe, and keep your business safe and your personal information safe and secure. Okay? Oh, yes. Yeah. Yes, it does. So it keeps it already fairly secure with, right, with just what Gmail already applies in there. You can also, there are different encryption. So when you go to the Chrome extension, you can see different things that can encrypt within Gmail. Again, double check always who is the creator of those extensions, whether it's a trusted source, and also what information it's going to have access to. So I never say that blanket across the board. You always need to do that double check. Oh, let me go ahead and I'll share this, let you share the screen, Julie, so that way you can show them the link. I am too. Yes. Mhm. They do. Wow. Nice. Mm-mm. That's an amazing toolkit, Julie. I love all that. I mean, look at I'm fascinated with each of the links that you've shared here. That's amazing resources. All right. Shh, I think that was it. Let me see. I think, yep, the rest is actually about the Veterans Business Week. Let me share that just so everybody sees that and the wonderful organizations that are here supporting. But yeah, Julie, I'm blown away. I really am. I love that link. Right. When you're so stressed and you've got to say something, no, I'm with you on that. Having this ready and already prepared, that's part of it. Preparation is a lot right there.